Welcome to the Post Sunday app where we talk about the sermon and the applications post Sunday. It's been a little bit of a while. It's been a little while since we've sat in these chairs and done this, but it's good to get back in the saddle.
We need to.
A little bit. So
the people are clamoring for it. we must obey the will of the people.
Is that a person? People might be a little extreme. Multiples.
Yeah. No, no one.
Yeah.
So
right.
I got good feedback last week, or good questions last week.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned this as we were talking, but someone called me, and I think a couple other people talked to me. But it's just important to remember that people are coming from different backgrounds as they come to a message on parenting.
Yeah,
I've talked to some people, who came from very laid back backgrounds, maybe unbelieving homes. So the idea of even discipling your kids to know the Lord wasn't something they grew up with.
Right.
And I've also talked to people who came from very strict homes, legalistic homes, where some of the things I said last week hit in a different way for them. And so I tried to kind of address that a little bit yesterday. I haven't heard back from some of those people, so I wonder, hopefully they did okay. We may have to do another post Sunday next week to kind of address some of those things too. But I think it's just important to realize people are coming from different places, and we want to have grace in our parenting as we try to apply some of these things. Go ahead.
That's a challenge for someone who's preaching, right? You want to know your audience,
right?
But the size of audience that we have at times, you can't know every single story,
right?
There,
right.
So one interpretation, but many applications.
Right.
How do you help everybody apply it well?
Yeah.
So this was the third part of this first 2 Samuel 13 and 14. So there's not a part 4.
No.
You didn't think,
no.
Mike, I got to tell you, we're going fourth.
Go for no. I didn't want to have that conversation. But to that point of there being 3 and hitting different and there being lots of different application of principles. There was more practical examples given than I might normally do in a message, because I think as a young parent I certainly yearn to kind of hear how are other people doing this. Like I know we're supposed to discipline our kids, but how are other people doing this? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Somewhere in between. So that was one of the reasons we were a little more specific yesterday.
Okay. So it was 5 foundations of biblical nurturing.
Yes.
You said that you didn't get to as much of the 5th principle of full restoration.
Right.
But also you wouldn't mind speaking today a little bit more to the 4th principle, consistent discipline. Did you want to speak to that one too?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Church Center app.
Yeah, let's see, one.
Shout out to the Church Center app.
Right.
I have not downloaded it yet.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so there was some discussion yesterday whether I had 7 principles for how to set discipline, 7 principles for discipline, or 6. I started off saying 7, and then as I was talking, I'm like, no, hold on, I only have 6. And so I can't count while I'm talking. I can't count, period, but definitely counting while I'm talking was like, I can't, I'm not even going to try, but I'm pretty sure there's 6. And someone came up to me afterwards and said, no, you had 7. So I may have said there's 6.
There's 6 on Church Center at least.
There's in my notes, but I misnumbered my notes.
Okay.
But
gotcha.
They were to pursue heart change, to create and communicate clear objective rules, to practice loving discernment, to commit to a consistent application of the rules and expect obedience, and then set redemptive consequences and provide appropriate grace and mercy. And so set redemptive consequences, we've kind of talked about some different ways that you can discipline your children when there's been a violation of the rules.
Okay.
And I think sometimes we're too lax, sometimes we're too strict, and just the point was, hey, expect obedience. There needs to be consequences, but we can also choose to show mercy and grace at times. But we just need to recognize, okay, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to communicate that as well. We don't want to be unaware of disobedience. What are some redemptive consequences that consequences you guys had your kids face that were designed to help keep soft hearts and respond to the gospel?
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I'm answering your question well. I didn't hear the sermon yet.
Yeah,
more on
that's
that
okay.
in a little bit.
Yeah,
I wasn't avoiding you.
No,
just so the audience knows
right,
that
right.
the audience, the one person watching.
You just didn't want to be convicted by the word of the Lord.
Right. Yeah, I was running. I think looking back, if I could answer it that way.
Yeah, that's a good way.
I wish I would have made sure that the consequences were tied to whatever the sinful behavior was, or whatever the heart issue was that led to the sinful behaviors. Maybe better said. And so, phones. The phones and electronics can be like, you did this, no screens.
Right.
You did this, no screens. You did this, no screens. And I think I was quick to say that without thinking, okay, if their issue is dealing with not wanting to care for others, maybe the consequence could be something more along the lines of helping them to see how caring for others is a good thing, and write a letter to someone, just tell them that you prayed for them, or I don't know. But am I getting at the core of the question?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about restitution as an example of a redemptive consequence, a time to ponder, to think of how to respond differently, practicing. We had our kids practice things. So those are some of the things we had.
Yeah, good. Okay. Now you didn't get to all of point 5.
No, I
had to rush it. Were you long on time and needed to?
Where I really felt like I failed was I didn't connect point 5 to the text as much as I should have. And point 5 is just the idea of full restoration. And there's a semi-restoration at the end of chapter 14, but not a fullness of restoration. So Absalom, this self-entitled prince, sets Joab's field on fire to get his attention, and Joab comes, what do you want? And he says, tell the king to let me back, or if I've sinned, fine, kill me. If not, whatever. So it says Joab went to the king, told him. The king summoned Absalom. So he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. So you think, there's been restoration, but really there hasn't. That's just a perfunctory, we can see each other. There hasn't been a dealing with the sin. There hasn't been dealing with the rebellion. There hasn't been any restorative consequences. And so we talked about, look, we want our kids to, or I should have talked about more, is we want our kids to know that the relationship can always be fully restored. We're always going to have our arms outstretched. There's no works they need to do in order to restore that relationship. And our kids need to understand that. David is keeping Absalom at arm's length because he doesn't want to fully restore that relationship. Now, there's going to be consequences, perhaps, from what they've done, but one of the consequences isn't that we don't want to have a relationship with them. So anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to say there.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. That's good. Well, that's the purpose of Post Sunday app, right? Give you a chance to get more clarity. So I hope lots of people will see that. Yeah. So,
and then encourage people to be reading chapters 15 through 20 as we get ready for the next few weeks.
Okay. Well, enough about you. Let's
talk
about me.
Talk about you. Where were you yesterday? I kept looking around for you.
Right. You knew exactly where I was.
Okay.
Daniel.
I did, but I did forget.
But you forgot.
Okay. He's it.
Yeah, I got invited to join the Saints at Covenant Community Church.
Nice.
And just to be kind of a fly on the wall to see if there's anything that I could help with or give some feedback on. And it was just a very sweet morning.
Good.
Boy, those people are so dear. And one very sweet brother came up and he said, "Hey, it just makes us feel a little more like home. Me being there, not because it was me, but just someone from Bethany Community there, just to continue that friendship, that relationship that wasn't this divide, separate, siloed ministries.
Be warmed and filled. Good luck. See you later.
Right. Yeah. So it was a great morning. I sat in on adult Sunday school. Their schedule is just like ours. So it was a half hour of fellowship in between Sunday school and the worship service. Sat through the worship service. Great time of hearing the word preached and sung and prayed. Then they had a meal afterwards.
Okay.
And so I was invited to stay for the meal.
You were a fly at the meal too.
So yeah, right. No, I fully partook of the meal, and just a sweet time seeing that body come together. And this was more of the for lack of a better term, the private launch versus a public launch this coming Sunday. And boy, it was just neat to see like these folks had thought through things. They had things down. I'm sure they would say, oh, we need to tweak this and this, but just tweaks, nothing that was glaring. So great morning being with Covenant Community, and let's repeat what you said before the sermon yesterday. Kind of the best way to encourage Covenant Community is to not attend Covenant Community this Sunday. Just as they get things, let them get things settled and going through and get their feet underneath them. But to pray, right? Obviously, to pray for that ministry. So,
cool. Well, thanks,
great. Yep. Thanks, Daniel. Thank you to you too for tuning in to the Post Sunday app. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah.